First of all, I need to mention that I'm going to be quoting from Epictatus. He was one of the Stoics, in fact, in my opinion, the main man. His works are fairly profound. People like Marcus Aurelius are more poetic, I guess, in a way, and profound too, but Epictetus is the man as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I'm quoting from him. If you are of a sensitive disposition, then don't listen to this or skip past the Epictetus slide, because there's some fairly gruesome stuff that I'm going to be talking about. And I need to thank a guy called Steve Monk, who put me onto a book called Zen, A Rational Critique, written by Ernest Becker. And you may know that I've sort of done a review of one of Ernest Becker's books, The Denial of Death, in a podcast. So I was keen to read it, and wow, what a book. Because of course we think that anything that comes from the East is legit, just because people wear strange robes, do strange things, burn incense, and whatever else happens to appeal to our imagination and our emotional nature. The strange stuff from the East. We're all seduced by it, me included. And this book by Becker gives a blow-by-blow account of how Zen and Buddhism have origins that are not actually all that pretty, and how the practices are not all that pretty. So, if you want, as the name suggests, a rational critique of Zen, then I'd suggest you read that book. Anyway, the title of this is The Power of Reason, because after reading that book, I once again came to the conclusion that our only means of navigation through all this crap is our reason. And either something makes sense or it doesn't make sense. Either we can validate it or we can't. If we can't, then it goes in the don't know box, or you just throw it in the trash can because it's total nonsense. Either way, if we can't validate something, then basically we don't adopt it. Well, that's the way I work anyway. So if you look over the last few I guess it's a few thousand years, you'll find that in the West, the Church, the Christian Church, Roman Catholic in the main, I guess, has been used to subjugate people in the West. So they were told that they were bad people and that they needed salvation, and that things like humility and poverty were good for the soul. Unless of course you're a bishop living a very nice life indeed. And then we have the Eastern traditions, Buddhism, I guess Hinduism to some extent, Taoism, Zen, which is a kind of offshoot from those. And because they come from the East and they look all kind of pretty, we take them in without really applying our reason to them. So let me give you an example. If you walked into a classroom in the West, and maybe it was a classroom full of, I don't know, teenagers, say, and they were all sat at their desks, and the teacher was walking around with a big stick. And if one of these pupils happened to not be sat quite correctly or whatever, then the teacher would whack the offender on the shoulder with this stick. We think, no, that's not the way we want to run our schools. But when we look at Zen and Zen meditation halls and so on, then we find a lot of people sat in their Zen meditation position, and some guy walking around with a big stick who will whack them on the shoulder if he believes that they are, maybe dropping off to sleep, or their posture isn't right, or whatever. And we look at that and we think, oh yeah, that's okay. It's okay because it's a Zen hall. And whacking people on the shoulder is perfectly alright in a Zen hall. So it got me thinking how easily we ingest this stuff without any critical reason whatsoever. So, I'm going to quote from Spinoza and Epictetus. And I'm going to quote from them because they represent the voice of reason to a large extent. The Stoics kind of believe that reason was all-powerful. It isn't. Reason is not particularly powerful against the emotions. You know, you can say to yourself, I'm going to stop smoking tomorrow or whatever, and then tomorrow comes and, you know, hey presto, you're sucking on a fag or whatever it is you smoke. Because our emotions and our habitual nature is actually stronger than reason. And there's a whole story to go into there, but Spinoza kind of figured that one out, so I'm going to quote from the Stoics and Spinoza because they are the voice of reason, and we should value that because they're not offering us unsubstantiated nonsense. You know, what the Eastern traditions promise is deliverance from suffering, or some altered state of consciousness that makes us less what's the word, susceptible or aware of suffering, or however you want to define it. Of course, it's a kind of escapism. But let's get on to I think first Epictatus, because this quote is quite interesting. So this is from his discourses, and he's talking here, and I did warn you not to listen to this if you're squeamish. He's talking here about a man who went to be beheaded, I think on Nero's command, and the executioner sort of bodged the first attempt. Maybe the axe went into his back or something. And this man, who was a Stoic, had the presence of mind basically to regain his composure, stick his neck out so that the executioner could have another go, and hey presto, on the second go, it's successful, he's decapitated. So Epictetus says, what then should a man have in readiness in such circumstances? It's hard to imagine that you might have any resource available to you in a situation like that. And here we are. This Epictetus is not trying to fudge the issue. You know, you are an immortal soul, and God is looking down on you, and you'll get help from spirits, and whatever comforting things people might think at a time like that. He's saying, oh no, you're thrown back entirely on your own resources. So what else than what is mine and what is not mine, and permitted to me and what is not permitted to me? This what is mine and what is not mine is a big thing with the Stoics. So what is yours? Your body? No, because at any moment your heart might pack in, or you can't depend on your body. You might get a virus and be dead in 3 days' time. So what is yours is your reason and your will, as far as the Stoics are concerned. So he goes on to say, I must die. Must I die lamenting? I must be put in chains. Must I then also lament? So he's saying, actually no, you don't have to lament. You have control over your own reason and your own will. I must go into exile. Does any man then hinder me from going with smiles and cheerfulness and contentment? Well, it's a big ask, isn't it? But you're either a victim of circumstances or you're not. And the Stoics worked very hard not to be victims of circumstances. In fact, there's a very good quote at the end of one of Nassim Taleb's books. I think it's Fooled by Randomness, and Taleb is a follower of the Stoics, where he says, when the executioner comes, make sure that you've had a shave and you are wearing your best suit, or some similar thing for a woman. You have to be in control in the situation, even though what is happening outside of you, you have no control over whatsoever. You only have control over what's going on within you. This is the big message of the Stoics. So, does any man then hinder me from going with smiles and cheerfulness and contentment? Tell me the secret which you possess. This is someone being interrogated. Tell me the secret which you possess. I will not, for this is in my power. But I will put you in chains. Man, what are you talking about? Me in chains? You may fetter my leg, but my will, not even Zeus himself can overpower. I will throw you into prison. My poor body, you mean. I will cut off your head. When then have I told you that my head alone cannot be cut off? These are the things which philosophers should meditate on, which they should write daily, in which they should exercise themselves. So, Epictatus is a sort of hard ass. He's not trying to avoid the reality of our life. He's giving us a central idea that we can, as far as possible, be in control of our inner state. Now, Spinoza goes a step further than this, and it would take too long to explain the differences, but for Spinoza, reason is the key actually to pretty much everything. And even if we are in some kind of emotional state, a passion as he would call it, we can use reason to analyze the passion. Not control it, but to analyze it. And the fact of analysis actually reduces the intensity of the passion. So, this quote is from the end of the part 4 of Spinoza's Ethics. And, if you've listened to any more of these podcasts, you'll know that I quote Spinoza very often. I'm not some Spinoza sycophant or groupie. Spinoza called us to reason, and that was his main message. I don't agree with some of the things that Spinoza says. Is that a problem? No, not at all. I'm entitled to my opinion, to my thoughts. So part 1 of the Ethics, which is about the nature of God, for me is just philosophical nonsense to a large extent. I don't need it. It doesn't add anything for me. It's the ontological proof of God, and it means nothing. I'm not interested. But the rest of the Ethics is just pure gold, as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, let's talk about this. Let's talk about Spinoza and his assessment of situations, similar to the one that we saw with Epictetus. So, but human power is extremely limited. Spinoza doesn't pull any punches. He says that God or nature is the cause of our suffering. There are lots of things out there that can cause us to suffer, from a virus to a rock falling on your head, or to someone lying to you and cheating you out of a large amount of money, say. So human power is extremely limited, and it is infinitely surpassed by the power of external causes, any number of external causes. We have not therefore an absolute power of shaping to our use those things which are without us. Nevertheless, we shall bear with an equal mind all that happens to us in contravention to the claims of our own advantage, so long as we are conscious that we have done our duty and that the power which we possess is not sufficient to enable us to protect ourselves completely. So he's here saying that we do our best to shape things to our own advantage, but if our powers are not sufficient to do that, then we have to accept what is going on. We have to acquiesce to it. Acquiesce is a big word for Spinoza. If you look up in the dictionary, acquiesce means to reluctantly accept something. and that's what he's talking about. Nobody wants to be struck down by a deadly virus, but if you get one, then you acquiesce to it. There's no point trying to fight nature. Having said that, he's not talking about just saying, oh, I've got a virus, well, that's it, I'm going to die in 2 days. Obviously, you go and get help, you go and pull together whatever resources you can to help you with that situation. Anyway, we remember that we are a part of universal nature and that we follow her order. This is a big thing with Spinoza. We are just objects amongst billions of objects, and we are a part of the laws of nature just as much as anything else. Even your emotions can be analysed by looking at cause and effect, according to Spinoza, and personally I think he's right. If we have a clear and distinct understanding of this, that part of our nature which is defined by intelligence, in other words, the better part of ourselves, will assuredly acquiesce in what befalls us, and in such acquiescence will endeavour to persist. So, we acquiesce to the situation, we take account of what's happening, but we still endeavour to persist, to gain our own advantage. For insofar as we are intelligent beings, we cannot desire anything save that which is necessary, nor yield absolute acquiescence to anything save to that which is true. Wherefore, insofar as we have a right understanding of these things, the endeavour of the better part of ourselves is in harmony with the order of nature as a whole. This is a big thing with the Stoics, and a big thing with Spinoza. I think Spinoza says something to the effect of, reason makes no demands contrary to nature. How can it? So, an example, tomorrow you decide you're going to go sunbathing, and then when tomorrow comes, it's raining. Do you still go out with your beach umbrella and towels and all the rest of it? Well, I wouldn't think so. Basically, your reason says, oh, it's pissing it down with rain, I'm not going out there. So reason would make no demand contrary to nature. We wouldn't say, well, I decided yesterday that I was going to go and sunbathe, so I'm going out anyway. That would be truly stupid. So, as you can probably see, Spinoza and Epictetus have a very, very high regard for reason and for our intelligence, and these are the things we should employ first and foremost. The emotions always mislead us. We're easily conned by feel-good emotions, by people selling some kind of woo-woo, some kind of thing that will solve all our problems if only we can acquire it or attain it. So I want to just summarize by saying that all the stuff from the East isn't good. A lot of the stuff from the West isn't good. In fact, if you see organized religion around something, then you can pretty well assume that it's not good. The job of sorting out how you live your life is your responsibility, and there are plenty of people, mainly in the West, not completely, but mainly in the West, who have written about this and have analysed it using reason. So the Stoics, the rationalists like Spinoza and people like Schopenhauer, in fact a lot of the philosophers, if you want wisdom, then go there. 90% of it may not be useful to you, but the 10% that you pick out may change your life and your ability to live a reasonable life. Anyway, I hope you find that useful.